Alright boys, Ronaldo's in the news. It's time to farm some clicks. Oh my god, finally. I wasn't sure how I was gonna cover rent this month. Same, my brother. Same. We've got a panel of highly professional ex-players here, so I'm expecting an easily audible and level-headed debate.
Man United are fifth in the league. This is great television. This is great.
Oh. Would you look at that? Never mind. This is better. 1 year ago, we bared witness to what was widely believed to be the reunion of dreams. Cristiano Ronaldo's return to Manchester United. And if we're all being fair, at the beginning, it turned out to be just that for any United fan that grew up watching him turn English defenses inside out. He really was that guy. On his return, he got straight to work, scoring goals, leading the line, and silencing those who believed he was finished. As far as first seasons go, on paper, from an individual standpoint, this was a success. Despite this, it wasn't all that great. The team as a whole wasn't up to par, and even further, he was assigned some of the blame. All of it, depending on who you ask. We'll touch on that in a bit, but for the time being, that is not the motivation behind this discussion. This is Ronaldo leaving the pitch in the final minutes against Tottenham Hotspur, a gesture that was revealed to be an act of defiance after refusing to be substituted in late on. While this alone is incredibly unprofessional and a cause for uproar, it's not even the first time it's happened in the last 2 months or so, and it really is only the tip of the iceberg. There is a problem, or rather, there has and continues to be a problem. So, how did we get to this point? Yo, what's going on guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe and welcome back to another Football Iconic video. You see that subscribe button? Press it. Thanks. Just so we're all on the same page, I am a Manchester United fan. I have been since before Ronaldo joined in 2003, and to say that I idolize this guy is a bit of an understatement. I actually think I still have a pair of orange mercurial vapors lying around in storage somewhere. I remember bankrupting my 12-year-old self for them, so thanks for that, Ronaldo. Appreciate it. Anyway, nothing can make me forget about those times, but I can still be critical about the guy and attempt to be unbiased about what his actions and his demeanor means for the current squad going forward. And what I can also be unbiased about is how incredible the sponsor of today's video is. Question: have you ever wondered which games are taking place for an upcoming weekend or match day? First off, I'm really sorry to hear that. But also, I have a solution to that problem. And it's all thanks to the sponsor of today's video, OneFootball. And this one's kind of special because I've literally been using OneFootball for maybe 10 years at this point. OneFootball is a football news app that is absolutely everything that you would ever need to keep up to date with all the happenings in the football world. From live scores of all the popular leagues that we all know and love, to highlights, to transfer updates, to dedicated stories and news sections for your favorite club. OneFootball has it all. But the best part of it is that this all comes at the very, very competitive and affordable price of nothing at all. If all that sounds good to you and you haven't already, why not go ahead and click the link in the description to download OneFootball for free today. Thanks so much to OneFootball for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Summer 2021. Manchester United have just finished second in the league, and it looks as if they could finally go on and maybe produce a legitimate title push if they brought in the right people. Rafael Varane and Jadon Sancho came through, which was fantastic, but they weren't done yet. Actually, according to many sources, they were. United apparently had no intention of re-signing Ronaldo, even knowing early on in the summer that he was available and had just had a shaky season with Juventus. But when Manchester City looked to be his next destination, they had no choice but to pounce, flex their influence, and steal him from under their noses. But even that telling of the events is heavily debated. According to The Athletic, one of the main reasons explaining why United were able to sign Ronaldo was that City were deliberating on how to deal with Raheem Sterling if Ronaldo was signed, and were still very much on the fence. This gave United's gallery of former players, current players, and the like an opportunity to offer him a deal that would make him a Red once again. It also allowed for the narrative that it was all fake news and that Ronaldo was never ever going to join City to be propagated as fact. Listen man, I don't know what happened. All the reports and leaks have been wildly inconsistent since the word go, and unless you're Ronaldo, a higher up employee of Man United, Man City, or Ronaldo's agent, then you don't know either. But if you are one of those people and you're watching this video, subscribe. In any case, the actual season was just as inconsistent as the story surrounding his arrival. He scored 18 goals in the Premier League and 24 in all competitions, which is really impressive. But United were dumped out of the Champions League in the round of 16 and also finished 6th. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked, Ralf Rangnick couldn't turn things around, and even though Ronaldo scored all them goals, he was scapegoated as one of the main reasons for United's misfortune. In the modern game, pressing as soon as you lose possession is one of the hottest forms of defense around. Mostly because it's effective. Solskjaer and Rangnick both attempted to implement meaningful press-orientated systems into the team, both with varying degrees of success at times. Solskjaer even looked to possibly be onto something at the end of the 2020-21 season. And it only makes sense that if you lose the ball in attack, the very best time to hunt for it and regain possession is immediately after that, otherwise known as pressing from the front or countering the counter, whatever you want to call it. Now, Father Time is unfortunately undefeated. At 36, it was obvious to everyone that CR7 would not be able to press consistently for an entire match. And I guess part of the reason for that, maybe even the biggest reason, isn't actually his age. He's never really been expected to press relentlessly for the full 90 at any team that he's played for, at any age. He didn't do it back then, so now that his legs are gone, why expect him to do it now? Not everyone views it that way though. That's simply what the people on this side of the fence say. Unless you're wearing gloves, you're either pressing your section of the pitch or you're a liability. That's what all the people on this side of the fence are saying. And I agree with both sides. He is an older player at the end of the day. If this were about any other player, this would never have even been a debate in the first place. However, I do concede that this is not just any other player. Anyway, many believe that Ronaldo's inability to consistently press was one of United's major problems. For the record, I'd like to let it be known that I am not one of those people. I agree that it may have contributed somewhat, but Ronaldo was nowhere near the biggest reason for United's poor showings in recent times. I spoke about those in more detail in this video, but as this current video is a Ronaldo one, that's what we're focusing on. Ralf Rangnick was always an interim manager, so the fact that he and Ronaldo weren't seeing eye to eye by the end of his time in office didn't mean much. Tactical changes in formation, playstyle, and more were reportedly not too popular with the Portuguese. But at the end of the day, that was all spilt milk. Changes did need to be made, and with Ten Hag coming in and a slew of new transfers following, it seemed as though those changes were actually being implemented. However, according to Ronaldo's camp and just about every reputable journalist out there, this was not enough. Ultimately, the only change Ronnie was after was a change of clubs. Mr. Champions League in the Europa League? Can you imagine? Yes, unfortunately, I can. He'd proven that he was still elite from his most recent year, but at the same time, and I know this is the first time that I'm mentioning this in this video thus far, but he's in his late 30s, and no decent Champions League team seemed willing to take the plunge. Even further, his apparent $500,000 per week wage is likely closer to the full weekly wage bill of most teams than it is to what those same teams can actually pay for him. Now, there were rumors, in fact, there were many rumors. Chelsea, Napoli, AC Milan, Atletico Madrid, lol. Can you imagine? That would have gone down well. Even a return to Sporting, where it all started. All of them turned out to just be rumors at the end of the day. Whether he liked it or not, he was stuck. And things only got worse from then on. Due to family reasons, he missed out on most of preseason, and when he was eventually available to play in a friendly versus Rayo Vallecano, he replied to an Instagram comment saying, "Sunday, the king plays." And by the way, this reply was to some fan account. I'm getting major Kevin Durant vibes from this. I can just imagine this guy spending his time scrolling social media for posts about himself. And you know what? I can't hate. I would do it too. Anyway, he did play on Sunday. He then left the stadium before the match was over, without permission. From Ronaldo eating alone in the canteen following the crazy 4-0 defeat to Brentford, to younger players refusing to listen to the advice that he gives, to Erik ten Hag and his staff apparently frequently speaking about how the team would perform better as a unit without him. It just keeps spiraling. And depending on who you ask, the final straw came at Old Trafford against the Lily-Whites. 2-0 up against Spurs, and when asked to come on, he does the opposite. For the second time, in only 3 months, he's left the stadium and gone home before his team had even finished playing. This time, in response, he was banished from first-team training and made to miss the important weekend matchup versus Chelsea. Then he made this incredibly cryptic post on Instagram, which has a lot of words, but doesn't really say anything at all. Frustrated with his lack of game time and the fact that Ten Hag sees him as a bench option, unhappy with the high-pressing tactics of yet another manager, safe to say he's at his wit's end. Ronaldo has been a polarizing figure since he first stepped into prominence, seen as nothing but a pretty boy to many people, up until he left them in the dust and made them wish they hadn't made him feel like he has something to prove. Don't get me wrong, he is a pretty boy, but when you're that good, you're allowed to be one, and you're probably even going to be respected for it, which he is. It's his ego and drive which has gotten him to the point that we're at today, but it's also his ego and drive, which has gotten him to the point that we're at today, if you know what I mean. So now that we're all caught up, I guess it's time for me to give my own opinion. I think it's more or less universally accepted that Ronaldo was brought into United with absolutely no consideration if he would be compatible with the team or not. The man's a freak, yes, but even prime Messi would have struggled without the right structure around him. And from all that we've seen, I'd imagine that Ronaldo was probably brought into the club under the assumption that he would be a guaranteed starter in perpetuity. If Rangnick and Ten Hag have now both highlighted that that would not be a good idea, then maybe there is something to be said about that. And listen, it's hard to skirt around the facts. United are a completely different club with Ronaldo on the pitch versus when he's not. United players have this weird tunnel vision when he's on the field in attack. They can only see one passing option in front of them, even if that option isn't an option at all. Something that's led to turnover over turnover. The fact that he is closing in on 500 league goals in his career might have something to do with that, but it also might not. Also, 500 league goals? This guy, man. I will admit that he is a striker, so his teammates should be looking to feed him, but it's just kind of getting out of hand at this point. Now, this is all coming from me just watching games, so I don't have any meaningful stats that show that there is a huge fluctuation in turnovers when Ronaldo is on the pitch versus when he's not, so I have taken some liberties in making this take, but then again, that's exactly what this is, a take. On the flip side, in defense of Ronaldo, I get it. Imagine being the absolute top dog your entire career and then having to sit back and watch because times and tactics have changed. Like I've already said, even at his physical prime, he never used to have to press relentlessly from the front. He never even used to track back all too much. But this just does not fly in the Prem, unfortunately. Especially against top 6 opposition. You have to stop the counters at all costs. He's still got the magic, but unfortunately, there are likely no elite clubs that can afford to have him as their star man at the moment, for many of the reasons I've already mentioned, plus more. And when one of them reveals themselves, signs him on, and then starts him every single game, I'll gladly be called an idiot. I would love to be called an idiot in this scenario. By the time this video comes out, Ronaldo will have probably been reintroduced into the first team, but I don't know, I just have a weird feeling that his mind is already clocked out of the club. I'm still pretty chuffed that he returned to United in the first place. Truly. Despite how things are now, seeing him in red against Newcastle on his second debut last year was all 12-year-old me really needed. But just like most of you guys are, I hope at least, I'm well aware that this is just a job at the end of the day. If an opportunity appears or things aren't right for you, most people would, and probably should in most cases, look to find a new workplace that better suits their needs. Ronaldo left Sporting because it was his big break. He wanted to leave United in 2008, even though they were the best team in the world at the time. To be fair, it was for Real Madrid, and to be even more fair, he's been pretty consistent in interviews that Real Madrid was his dream club. Thanks to Sir Alex, he ended up leaving a year later. He left Madrid because of a fallout with Perez. He left Juventus because they were a sinking ship, and in his eyes, that's exactly the same reason that he wanted to leave United only a few short weeks ago. Only thing is that, in the present day, the team looks to be performing better without him. And I'd imagine that he's on shaky terms with Ten Hag. And judging by how the team is setting up these days, I think these are both trends that will continue. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about Ronaldo in this ever-evolving situation. Feel free to follow me on all the socials. That's all from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.